Welcome, audience, to another episode of Beyond Circumstances. And today I have with me Andrew Parsons, also known as Andy. I call you Andy.
Oh, great to be here, Shiri. Lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you, and thank you for saying yes. I met you in London in 2013. Yeah, it's been a long time ago when you attended the first medical coaching course that I did in the UK. And you really stood out, and we have been in touch since. We have collaborated on different projects. We have worked together a few times, and I've seen you evolve professionally. And I have so much respect and admiration for the work that you do. And it was pretty clear for me that, I want you on this podcast. So I invited you and you said yes. Andy, please introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are and what you do.
Oh, love to, Shiri. Yeah, long time ago now, 2013. Wow. So we met actually just as I was transitioning to this latest version of me, shall we say, which was a wonderful time to connect. But my background's wide and varied, as they say. So my first career was in life sciences, involved in sort of bringing new medicines into the marketplace, particularly around neuroscience and such, and got into coaching through my professional work actually as a research leader. When I sort of left that sector behind, I really wanted to sort of step out and to bring coaching into a health and wellness setting. And I think that's how we connected. So I've been doing this work now for a number of years. And interestingly enough, part of the work that we were able to sort of collaborate on years ago now, over 10 years ago now, was bringing a medical coaching orientation into a cancer service here in the NHS in the UK.
Yeah.
And that's still going and has been the subject of independent review from academic researchers. And there's one paper out there, and another one, I believe, is just been submitted. So that's just amazing to see, the impact that we can bring as coaches.
Yeah. I am so proud of that project. Proud of it.
So amazing. Yeah, and nowadays I have my own company, but we're just starting off a not-for-profit over here in the UK called Creuni Wellbeing, which is all about energy. Working with a group of a wide range of practitioners, and we're really working on well-being from the self and connecting with nature. And my business side of things now is through a company called The Conscious Workplace, where we're bringing e-learnings and trainings to coaches and other practitioners. So as ever, quite busy. And I'm not actually sure I ever shared this with you, actually, but very recently, I found out I'm dyslexic. And also, very likely, as some of my psychology colleagues say, to have ADHD as well. But I don't know about that. That's not self-diagnosed.
Join the club.
But I think that might have something to do with the wide-ranging careers.
Yeah, makes sense. That's amazing. So just want to tell the audience that we're going to have links to everything that you mentioned. And I want to mention something else, that you are part of a team responsible for this book. Yeah, do you want to say a few words about this? Because we're going to have a link for this one as well. This is a really good book.
This came from supervision, from a coach supervision group. When we, and it was during the pandemic actually, when the researchers were coming involved and to sort of review what we were doing in the service, we thought as a group it would be really great if we could share what we were doing from our perspective. And so this is written by pretty much all the members of the group who were involved at the time, but maybe a couple who English wasn't their first language. They didn't feel comfortable in this. But just give me a big shout out to Matty, who's also a medical coach, because she was such an instrumental part of bringing this service together. She's absolutely amazing. Empowerment and health and wellness came from that coach supervision space. And we were really trying to sort of break down, well, what do we do for people when they're navigating these, big life disruptions, and particularly from a coaching approach, and that's where we sort of really tuned about actually, well, what we really do is help people build their empowerment.
So I love that you're the one that put the word empowerment in the space because it hasn't come up until now. So, and the word empowerment is used a lot. So what is one or more things that you think that as coaches we get wrong when it comes to empowering our clients?
Oh, I think for me, empowerment is a gift. It's like a door you can open for people, but they have to step through it. And I think that's the biggest assumption I think many of us make is that we hold the key, because actually we don't. All we can do is offer the gift. But empowerment comes from within, and I think when we understand that it's how we support our clients to move, if that's the right word, I don't know, but actually that's where they start to actively participate, and that to me is what empowerment's all about. And it's interesting because about the time we were doing this book, I did a talk for the ICF in Italy. Brilliant conference. It was one of the few games that the English rugby team won in that World Championship, and there was me and another British, because actually I support Scotland, but a British coach said, "Look, watching the rugby, we were having this conversation about, well, what does empowerment mean?" And it was really interesting because I think that I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll get the listeners telling us, but I don't think that there's a word for empowerment in Italian, which was why we ended up having a conversation around this. I said, "Well, yeah, it's really great. What is empowerment?" And for me, it's that active participation.
So what I'm hearing is that the whole concept of I am going to empower you or I am going to empower my client is a misconception. I can open the door, like you said, for them to empower themselves. That's a shift in the paradigm. So let's bring it to health and wellness and dramatic circumstances. Let's bring it to crisis. Where does that come in? Before, during, after crisis? At what time do we want to open that door, and how might that look like?
Oh, I think it can happen all the different stages, and it's really interesting because when we started the coaching service in the cancer center in the hospital, it was kind of like, well, where do we fit along some of the other more traditional approaches that people were supporting people who are going through crisis, because it can be a huge trauma, and actually that trauma, that grief, has to be processed in many ways, and of course we all do that in different ways and such. But there's a space within that once the processing is maybe not taking place, but actually once you're accommodating the situation you're in, is how do I move forward? How do I live, with what's going on around me? And I think that's the space of empowerment. We used to have a lot of clients coming through who had worked through some of the grief, if I could say that, but actually where the coaching service was able to support the service users there was, okay, so what's next? How are we going to move through this situation you're in? How are you going to live your life to the full? And that's interesting because often, we talk about flourishing and thriving. Those aren't words that really sit when you're working with people navigating cancer, for example. It's like, well, I don't really want to be in this space, and but empowerment is something that I think people can tune into more. And I know that from my own personal experience because I'm a cancer survivor myself. But that sense of empowerment around actually, I need to live through this and participate is so key.
So here's a question that I get. Oftentimes I get that from my students, and they say, well, how can I talk about empowerment when I'm coaching someone that's living with or coping with a medical condition that has no cure? Or we know it's a chronic condition. So how do we do that? How do we start, or any tips for that conversation about empowerment? How do we approach that?
Well, it might not be called empowerment for the client.
Good one.
That's the first place to go to, because actually it's tuning into their language. That's the key, isn't it? As we do as coaches. But what would be useful? Such a powerful question. What would be useful right now for you? How could we do that? We do all this through the trainings, don't we? It's about that reframe from okay, so there's a lot of stuff there that you don't want. What do you want? It's a powerful place to be.
The question of for the sake of what is also one that, has an impact. So I guess, one of the reasons that people ask, okay, how do you approach empowerment? Not in the context of wellness, but in the context of, medical and health and chronic illness and crisis. I guess some of it has to do with emotions. That's pretty sticky. So let's say a few words about emotions and empowerment.
Oh, I think for me, what we came in the book was a little cycle of empowerment. And actually, it becomes a really sort of interesting place of empowerment, actually, just to think about these things, because the first place is awareness. And that's awareness of what's going on, within me and around me. And that's where the awareness of the emotions can come in. And also the difference between an emotion and a mood and a feeling, which is a really interesting place to explore as well with folks.
Say more about that. That's fascinating.
Because what's the difference between an emotion and a feeling, and what's the purpose of an emotion?
Interesting question.
And means so different, many different things to different people. But actually, just starting to have that little bit of presence to notice. I think that's the next one. This is what I'm experiencing, because once I can get into that space of I'm experiencing this, and that's where we can really help people with coaching. What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? And finding a language to articulate that can be really key as well, because sometimes I don't know. I've never had this experience before. I don't know what it is. But then you can break it down to the submodalities. Well, okay, where is it in the body? Has it got a color? Has it got a shape? What could be, what would be useful about this? Then you can start to work with the emotions and perhaps in a different way with the client, for the client, so they can work with them. And I think that emotions are fundamental to us, really, aren't they? In all the different ways that we do them, in different perceptions that we have around things. So I think it's just a fundamental part there. But it also goes into the other elements of the empowerment cycle as well, because I think one key part is actually I've got to have awareness of what I'm experiencing. Where am I going is another part of that awareness, and noticing that. But aligning motivations for me and who's around me can be really, really key. They may not need to be identical, but if there's alignment there, you can get empowerment. And it's really interesting, because this is one of the aha moments I had when we were doing the talk in Italy, actually, because we were just saying, well, they have to be aligned. And one of the delegates stood up and I just said it as I had experienced for many years. Well, this explains to me why I thought I was empowered, but actually what I was doing was fighting the organization. And and I think that's a really interesting thing for us to think about, actually. How do we find alignment with what's going on? And and then if we become aware, we can find align our motivations or not. Then we can make a choice, and then we can implement action, and then we can go around the cycle again. And I think that's just a great model for how we work as coaches, really, isn't it? That's what we do.
Yeah, that's a great model. So, if you want to read more about this, then you have it in the book. I think for me, one of the, again, another misconception is around, when people become aware of their emotions and they're trying to move towards alignment, and then from there into action, one of the first things that they intuitively try to do is manage the emotions. From my perspective, that's a lose-lose situation, because I don't think we can manage emotions. They are what they are.
They are what they are. And that's part of the acceptance of them. That's the awareness and the noticing. Is actually, this is what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And I think once you get to that, so this is what I'm experiencing, it's okay, isn't it? Because it can just be left. This is just what I'm noticing. Oh, there's a great meditation that we can do, part of our mindfulness practice, isn't it? About just letting things drift away on a river or within a cloud. Just pop those thoughts there and notice them. They're not going anywhere, but they're just there.
I think that the foundation for that is the separation between me and my emotions. So once I understand that I have emotions, then I can notice them come and go and change and change.
Yeah.
So once we don't take an emotion and we turn it into an adjective.
Yes, it's an emotion is a thing. Well, and in my world, it's something that happens really quickly, and it's usually to create a behavioural response. And you can have moods and feelings, and they spread, don't they? And they can persist for quite some time. But the more we're in the power of bringing our attention back into the moment, then actually, we can just be here. That's the powerful place to be. That level of presence.
It's the only place to be. I think it's the only place to be.
Oh yeah.
And when you are trying to navigate a medical crisis or an illness, it's an uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah. Well, unsurprisingly, I know from my own experience, comfortable. Actually, I am here.
Expect that.
It's an interesting space, isn't it? Because when we're undergoing a medical crisis, we don't really want to be in that place. But if we can be in that place, then there's something I can do about it, or I'm here, and I'm being me.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's the difficult bit to continue to be when we're going through a medical crisis and things are happening to us and such. But I can always be here and be me. That was my learning through all this, is my experience.
It's a powerful shift because oftentimes people feel that they are in a reactive place. This illness is happening to me. But once there's a shift, and this is what I can do. I can be present. And even if I can take a deep breath, I am doing something. I'm shifting into a proactive place. I'm not just reacting to things that are happening around me. Plus, again, the illness, like the emotions, is not who I am. There is a me, there's a self there.
Well, and one of the key themes that come from any of these things is that what I might be able to do through whatever's happening to me may change, it be reduced or be diminished, but I'm still me, and that's
powerful.
a very, very powerful place.
And yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about coaching clients with cancer, because I know you've been doing that for the past few years. And you've also been creating a lot of content in this field. So I'd like our audience to have an opportunity to enjoy your wisdom and experience in this field.
Yeah, I can send some links over for some stuff we've done for the EMCC and things as well, and what have you.
Lovely. So a few things that you think are important that coaches know. Let's say coaches in the field of health and medical coaching. Because cancer is frightening. It has, really bad PR. It's frightening.
I think, as ever, it's the ability to be present and be available and be able to listen for our clients, because that's our job, really, isn't it? Is to listen and help the client make sense of their situation, whatever that might be. Could be elements of changing behaviors or learning new habits or practices, however you want to describe them. But it's that ability to, like you say, have that meta perspective, that separation of, okay, so this is me and this is what I'm experiencing. But I can maybe just move aside of my fears over, over cancer or whatever it might be, to be able to follow the process and be in service for the client. I think that's the most incredible thing, and Eugenia, because she was the first volunteer at the Fountain Centre, said to me, "Well, you got to come down and see these guys because you're going to love it and you're going to be involved." I lost both parents to cancer, so I really did not want to work in the space of supporting people with cancer. But sometimes the universe sends you a message that, hey, you've got to do this, and I lent in. And of course, I met people who were my mum and dad, my parents, very similar circumstances, and that was okay. Because you got the support of your peers, you got your support of your supervisors, and actually, if you follow the process, it allows me to be able to be available for those people. at the time. So it's it's like all these things. We have to deal with our own fears first, really, don't we, to be available to others.
We have to. We have to. She was amazing. Amazing woman. Can we say a few words about survivorship?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
About survivorship. So first of all, could you explain what survivorship is, like the concept?
Oh, different definitions in different cultures or countries, I guess. So, survivorship is anybody who is living with or beyond cancer. So, from the moment of diagnosis, I think, my understanding is, you're in that bucket of survivorship in the US. In our service, we tend to talk about living with and beyond.
Yeah, in Israel as well.
So it's just that this has happened to me, and I'm now in this space where my world has changed. It's no longer what it was, I think, is another way of looking at it. And I'm surviving that change, sometimes more dynamically than other times, I guess. But it's that post event, and I think that's kind of an interesting space for us to think about, isn't it? Because it's a change situation, and before that event, we've got what once was, which is perhaps no longer available. And then there's a liminal space, isn't there? If we go back to our medical coach training, we're working in that liminal space. And then there's the beyond of the new beginnings. And I think all that is the space of survivorship. And of course, we do work with end of life as well in the center. And so people with terminal diagnosis who are on palliative, thank you. Yeah, there's the dyslexia coming out. Who are on the palliative care pathway. We work with people with that experience as well. So it means all sorts of things, different people and different experiences. But as coaches, we can support, people through all those areas. Should we choose, if it's the thing that we want to do and, work towards. But I think it's a really interesting space, isn't it? And it means so many things to different people. And of course, there are certain cancers, where that people become on a wait and see. A smouldering lymphoma, it could be, how do I get my life back on? But actually, I've got this. It's not really sort of clinical at the moment, but actually, how do I live fully, knowing that there's something going on for me that may or may never happen?
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting space. It's interesting, actually. It's not a word I use. I did. It was when we first started the work. I was working with survivorship, but I actually prefer living with and beyond.
I don't like that word. I don't like that word. I know it's like the common term. I usually try to invite my clients to think about another word. Unless they feel really comfortable with it. So if they do, then
Exactly. It's whatever works for you. But
often,
survivorship is difficult when you're in the when you're approaching and you're on a palliative pathway. It's
yeah.
But words are so important, aren't they?
I find myself at the beginning of a coaching process when I coach clients with cancer is asking them, are they comfortable using the word cancer? Some of them say no, and some of them say yes. And those who say no, I say, okay, give me another word.
It's all okay.
It's okay.
It's all okay. And I think that comes back to it, isn't it? It's how do we make these conversations useful?
Yeah.
And of course we want to broaden people's perspectives and maybe offer challenges as well. To maybe how people are seeing themselves or the world. But it's part of the contract that we would have as a coach, isn't it?
It is.
What's going to work well for you?
And it's the fact that we're having these conversations, and oftentimes these conversations are only held with us coaches in the coaching space because they're so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's a safe space. I mean, that's the most important thing that we can ever do as a coach, is just create that safe space for reflection and to share and to process and to think and to design or plan even. So I think that that's part of what we do, really, isn't it? We help people design the new and move through that liminal space, to create that new beginning and step into it, which sometimes is the hardest thing to do.
We are close to completion. So, I want to ask you for one of your top resilience building techniques.
Oh, really simple one. Just take a moment, notice your breath, count the number of breaths for a minute.
Simple and powerful.
And you know what I often show my clients actually, when I first learned these techniques, you know, I had a busy leadership role. You know, the teams I used to work with were brilliant because they solve all the biggest problems for me at the start of the day. And so I'd be working on those problems, 10 meetings later on, and meant I wasn't totally present with what was going on when I was supposed to be dealing with something else. Um, but just the art of taking a few breaths before and after helps you enter, helps you leave, and I think that's such a powerful place to build our resilience from.
I find that the most powerful things are usually the simplest ones. So, Andy, where can people find more about you and your work?
So I'm on LinkedIn. We're just launching the Conscious Workplace at tcworkplace.com early next year. Creuni Wellbeing CIC is operating, and again we're building our websites and things with Catherine and and colleagues and the other guides at the Community Interest Company, which is a not-for-profit over here in the UK. Just said, yeah, just reach out, and there's lots of materials that I can send over with some sharing of seminars and such, and we'll be bringing trainings out next year as well through these areas. And yeah, really, really, looking forward to how things will shape in the future, and looking forward to connecting with your I was going to say readership. That's not the right word, is it? Listeners.
Audience. Yeah, so we'll provide a lot of links for people to connect with you and enjoy what you do and stay in touch and continue following you. So, Andy, thank you so much for taking the time and saying yes. This was wonderful. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. If you're a coach and you want to learn more about supporting your clients through crisis and helping your clients move beyond the circumstances, whatever those challenging circumstances may be, tune in to our episodes and follow us on social media for additional content, training, and lots of goodies. Thank you very much. Shalom and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.